I'll give you a little intro for today's practice. We're going to start with a little warm up as usual for mobility, specifically ankles and hips. And then we're going to progress towards the figure 4 shape, using it as a balancing tool or challenge, and also an arm balancing tool and challenge. Of course, the arm balancing aspect is going to be optional, and you can kind of play around with some of the other offerings that I give to you during that time. But there will be a little bit of time in this class for some self-study work, whether that's to create something of your own that I haven't mentioned, or just to kind of play with a couple of the other things we worked on previously in the practice. So with all of that being said, let's begin on our back, please. And we're going to start in the constructive rest pose, which is to have your knees bent and your feet a little wider than your hips, and then allowing your knees to rest together on each other. Just a hint of hip internal rotation, and allowing your lumbar to maybe potentially curl off the mat just a little bit in this position. So you don't need to force anything, but if that's where your body lands, it's all good. A short practice of observation before we get moving. Use this time in a way that you think will benefit the rest of your practice. Breathing's a nice place to start. And also making those non-judgmental observation about the rest of your system. Body sensations, the fluttering in your mind. Trying to pull back from those as the participant and instead just watch what comes up in a more curious, lighthearted way. Take your knees out now so that they're about the same distance as your feet. And we'll work on the toe-heel rockers from this position, alternating between a heel raise and pulling the top of your foot towards your shin bone. Noticing where you're feeling those muscular engagements in both of these positions. And then let's pause in each one of those poses for just a second. It doesn't matter which way you start with. Just try to max out your range with that ankle, plantar flexion or dorsiflexion. And then switch. Set your feet back down, find your foot tripod, and see if you can lift just your big toes. And then switch it out. Lower your big toes and try to raise the little foretoes. Switch back and forth as you maintain a strong anchor through the base knuckles. Pinky side edge, big side edge, and of course the heel is rooting as well. Switching 2 more times. And then a little juice for the wrists. Just take your arms straight up over your shoulders towards the ceiling. And we're just going to move the hands back and forth between a flared finger flexion and extension. Just that front to back movement, real simple. Now turn your palms to face each other, and you're going to pull your thumbs towards you for like a sideways wrist flexion, and then you're going to pull your thumbs away from you. And you'll do that a few times. See if you can do that without moving your elbows or shoulders. And then make a little fist. Pull your knuckles towards each other for wrist flexion. And then move into wrist extension, knuckles out. 2 more times like that. Rest your arms how you like them for your bridge pose. Tuck your pelvis under, start to lift your tailbone and then your sacrum, and then you'll peel your back off the floor one piece at a time for your bridge. Inhale at the top of your bridge, and exhale, slowly travel down like a wave, following that breath all the way out. Let's inhale here at the bottom, and exhale, tuck and roll your way up to the bridge. Inhale at the top. Slowest exhale you can manage as you lower down piece by piece. Now we're going to inhale to rise. Move when it makes sense with your breathing. Exhale at the top. Inhale, travel down slow. Exhale at the bottom. One more like that. Inhale to raise it. And exhale to lower. Figure 4 stretch with the legs. You're going to cross the right ankle over the left thigh, but keep your left foot on the ground. Take a look at your right ankle. Try to smooth out any wrinkles on that inner portion of your joint. And then with your arms on the ground, draw your figure 4 legs towards your core. So you're feeling a little bit of work in the hips. Front of that left hip flexor, maybe you're feeling that. And also just notice what you're feeling on this right outer hip. I'm trying to keep that right ankle pretty straight as well. Rotate your left ankle while it's off the ground. Nice big circle, carve it out. And then stretch both legs up, right over your hips. Your knees could be bent or straight. Pull the toes towards you and away from you for 5, 4, 3, 2, left over right, figure 4 stretch. Work that ankle to its neutral position so that we don't get that sickling effect on the inside border of that ankle. Find your hips, draw that figure 4 stretch towards your trunk. Roll your right ankle around. Both legs straight up, just a couple more of those gas pedals, pushing and pulling the toes. From here, we're going to curl up into a little cannonball. Head and shoulders are going to lift off so you have a rounded back, and then start to kick and get a little momentum to roll the length of your spine as many times as you like. We'll meet in tabletop. From your tabletop position, you're going to lift your right leg and tuck your right ankle kind of behind your knee so that your ankle bone lands along the left calf. So it feels like an awkward figure 4. But as you sit back on your ankle, the bones of your ankle are going to give your left calf muscle a little bit of a trigger point sensation. So this can be intense. So you don't need to put a whole lot of weight on it. Just kind of find that Goldilocks spot and breathe. And then shift back out and let's swap it out. Left tucks under the right. Oof. This side's a little more tender for me for some reason. Tabletop is up next. If you want to be on your forearms for this, we're going to do our hip cars, so that could also work. Squeeze behind your left knee. Try to maintain a level pelvis and rotate your left hip in a strong circle. Remember, this isn't so much about the size of it as it is the honesty of it, not borrowing from the pelvis or the spine as you move your hip. Go the other way. For those of you on your palms, can we get the arms really straight so we're not leaning to one side? Last rotation. And then move on to the right side. Squeeze behind your knee, try to keep it closed even as you extend your leg back behind you. Reverse it. Knees are going to land back under the hips, but you're going to try to pull your feet off the ground as well as your shins. And then spiral your leg bones inward towards each other so your toes pivot out to the sides. And then squeeze your heels together. I'm going to do that a few more times. Inward rotation of the hip. And then squeezing in. Last two. And then you've got some time for cats and cows. This could also be done on the forearms. And remember the cat-cow, traditionally we could use kind of the breath to dictate the movement and moving in synchronicity with the breath. But it's also interesting to explore it in a more articulate style where the breath just comes naturally and we try to move our spine potentially much slower, segmenting each little bitty area. A lateral cat-cow could be a nice way to feel into a little bit more stretch on the ribs. Set your hands off to one side on a diagonal, but keep them shoulders width. If you're doing that lateral one, let's go the other way after this one. I'm going to add in some hip circles as well. Come back to a neutral position. Tuck your toes under and rock your hips back any amount towards your heels. Heels stacked over the toes, and you're finding your maximal toe extension. If you can manage to sit up on those toes, let's do that. But keep pushing your toes into the ground. Roll your shoulders up, down, and back a few times. And then let's go to our downward dog. If you need to untuck your toes for a moment or two, that could feel pretty good. Let's do a really exaggerated pedaling action in down dog so that one heel gets really high for toe extension and the other heel tries to touch the ground for ankle dorsiflexion. Keep moving, pedaling, breathing, stretching your spine. Hips very high, and strengthen your arms and hands. Lift your heels as high as they'll go and travel forward to the front of your mat for a dangle. Easy neck, allowing the shoulders to shrug upward if they want to. Just let your arms be heavy. Fingers to the floor or your yoga blocks. Come up about halfway or lengthen your spine and start to shift your weight forward and back in your feet. Depending on if you're using the blocks or not, you might even be able to get most of your foot off the ground in both directions. Knees could be bent generously through this as well. And then whether you want to roll up or stand up, let's secure the feet intentionally, pressing your footprint down and then rise to stand. Couple sets of side bends in the spine. Choose your shoulder position and then just go each way for a few breaths. Let's time it with the breathing. Inhale through the middle and exhale to a side stretch. One more set. The transition back to the forward fold could be done with a hip hinge, kind of like we traditionally do, or you can segmentally roll your spine down in through that flexed position. And then once you find that fold, find tabletop again. We're going to do a fun little sequence here, a little bit of a hip stretch, and then also a fun transition to kind of challenge our toes in this tucked position. So first thing, lift your feet off the ground like we had them before when we were doing our rotations, and then pivot your toes on a diagonal to the left side of your mat and set them back down. Lift your left leg up and tuck it behind your right knee. So you're going to try to get your knees nice and tight. Your lower legs will make an X. I'm going to try to situate your hips so they feel pretty neutral. Stretch back any amount with your hips between your heels. And then shift forward, press to the tops of your feet, and pull your knees up into your chest like you're doing cat pose with your spine. Lower your shins, stretch your hips back. Shift forward and lift everything except the feet, doming your back. One more like that. Little stretch back. And then we're going to pause in that lift, firming your arms, pulling in through the core, and then here's the little switch. You're going to try to push off your toes and uncross your legs and land with your toes tucked in a hover table. And then a down dog just to find a little stretch in the legs and the spine. Come back to your tabletop. Float your shins off the ground. Pivot on your knees so your toes turn off to the right side diagonally. The right leg snuggles behind the left. It's like cow face legs. Gomukhasana, shoelace and yin. Stretch back with your hips. Shift forward. Come onto the tops of your feet. Pull your knees in. Lower down. Pull your bum back. Shift forward and flex your spine as you float your lower legs. Press into the tops of your feet. Last one, little hip stretch backwards. And then find that little coiling in, lift your shins, press down with the tops of your feet. And then we have that fun little reverse out, land on the toe tucked tabletop. Downward facing dog. Lift your heels and tiptoe, step or hop your feet up to your hands. Come up halfway, lengthen your spine. Exhale, refold your body. Inhale to rise and reach overhead. Exhale, hands to your heart. Mountain pose. Stretch overhead as you breathe in, get a little longer. Pelvis forward, tipping, folding, exhale. Halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, fold. Situate your plank position. Step it back. Feel your toes pressing into the ground. Pull your plank all the way to the floor. Flip your feet the other direction. Tops of your feet anchor. Roll your heart forward. Use your hands a little bit, but not too much. All the way down. Tuck your toes under. You can push to plank from here. Or if that feels like too much this early, just push back to tabletop. Downward dog. Flip your right foot the other direction. You're on the toenail side of your toes, stretching the front of your ankle. And then switch. Tiptoe, step or hop forward. Halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, folding. Inhale, rising. Exhale, hands to heart, and then we reboot. So a traditional-ish sun salutation, your way. If you're skipping the vinyasa today, you could do some squats, chair pose, standing side bends, or a forearm version of that flow. Find that relationship between your flowing movements and your flowing energy, which is your breath. Just a quick pause and down dog. And then we're actually going to do 2 more full sun salutations. Get your feet up by your hands any way you like. Half lift on an inhale. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise and reach. Hands together at the chest. Mountain pose. Big stretch. Nice long in-breath and a slow, patient exhale to fold your body. Long and strong inhale, halfway up. Deepen your fold, exhale. You got your plank and or your vinyasa or your variation. Your down dog, you can have a breath or 2 if you want it, or even more than that. And then please do 1 more of those full sun salutes your way. I'm going to watch Ellen because she's been telling me about her awesome chaturangas. Let's see it, baby. Oh yeah, real nice. Yes, love it. So good. Every time you come up to your half lift, Mickey, I can see your little face. And your beautiful bookshelf. Okay, we're gonna move on and layer in some different stuff. So just take a second, your down dog if you need to or want to. And then we'll step the right foot forward. Bring your left knee down. So it's a little short kneeling lunge. Stretch overhead with your arms. Take an inhale. Exhale, arms are going to go back and then you're going to lift that back knee. So if you hadn't tucked your toes, you'll want to do that. Next in-breath is to stand up on your right leg, arms overhead if you want. Now this left leg is going to angle like you're going to do a kick from the inside edge of your foot. So it's external hip rotation. Cross your left ankle over your right leg and sit back a little bit like a little squat. Uncross your leg. Kick your left leg behind you like a warrior 3. And then just step back to a low lunge. This is your flow, or your step back to a down dog or a dolphin or whatever you're doing there. Left side, step through. Keep your back toes tucked maybe and lower your right knee. Inhale, kneeling crescent. Exhale, arms back, body forward, right knee lifts off the ground. Inhale, stand up on your left leg, right leg comes out front, and then you're going to turn the hip externally a few times. When you're ready to inhale, step back through kind of like a warrior 3-ish. Right toes land, hands come back down, and we're back to our flow. We'll do that short sequence 1 more time. And then we're going to layer it in. I think I forgot that little figure 4 standing. We'll get it next time. Right leg up and back, breathe in. Step forward, back knee down. Inhale, kneeling crescent. Exhale, shift forward, fly your arms, lift your knee. Stand up on your right leg. Breathe when it makes sense. Hip external rotation. Little figure 4, just for a second. Uncross, kick back with the left leg like you're going to come to a warrior 3, but then step all the way back and down with your hands. Runners to a vinyasa or a step back. Left leg, give it a kick. Lift it, then step it through. Back knee down, inhale, kneeling crescent. Exhale, arms go back, body tips forward, raise your knee. Inhale, rise to stand left leg. Some rotations. And then let's find that little squatting figure 4. Since we missed it last time, we'll take a few extra breaths here. You can think of your thumbs in your hip creases, pulling your seat down and back as the heart stays kind of lifted. One more in and out breath. And then try to really control this right hip backwards into that little kick from the hip. Step back, low runner's lunge. Any exit will do. Let's stretch that right leg high again. Breathe in. Step forward. Kneeling crescent, that's your inhale. Exhale, arms back, left knee lifts. Inhale, rise up to stand on your right leg. Nice and vertical. This time you're rotating the hip in both directions, pivoting at the hip joint. The heel is kind of fanning inward and outward. Figure 4, sit back any amount. You can pull your toes towards your shin and try to smooth out that left inner ankle. Warrior 3-ish, but we're not going to hold it very long. This is just a transition to your Warrior 2. So step it back, land your left big toe, and then set your foundation for Warrior. We're here for a couple breaths. Maintain your depth in that knee flexion and reverse your Warrior so it's more spine side stretch. Side angle pose. Open up to a wide leg stride. Neutralize your feet, but then turn your left toes out a few degrees for a side lunge. We're not going to take this first one very deep, just kind of a moderate. Warrior 2, back to the front leg. Reverse the triangle. It's kind of a familiar flow here. We've done it before. Now hands to the floor as you lift your back heel and bend into your front knee. Once you get your hands where you want them, which might be on your blocks, straighten out your right leg. Keep your back heel off the ground as high as it'll go. Press the front foot so hard into the ground so you can feel your calf muscle firing up there. Now you can rebend that knee, step it back for vinyasa or down dog. Pausing for a moment. And then stretch your left leg nice and high. Before you step up, try to lift your right heel maximally and then bring it through. Back knee down, toes stay tucked. Inhale, rising. Exhale, hinging and lifting your back knee. Breathe in as you stand up firmly on your left leg. Right hip stays in flexion and we just spiral it. Heel pivots in, heel pivots out. Remember, this is not opening the leg to the side. This is just an axial rotation of the hip. Now that little crisscross, right ankle over the left thigh, you can sit back a little or a lot. Trying to fan your leg into that externally rotated position. Teasing your Warrior 3 now. Stretch your right leg behind you, feel your glutes light up. Bend your left knee to step back for the Warrior 2. Reverse your Warrior 2. Side angle. Couple breaths. Opening to that straddle. Neutralize the feet, but then the right toes turn out a few degrees. Moderate side lunge. Reconfigure Warrior 2 left leg. Reverse the triangle, inhale. Exhale, pivot through that runners to the long stretchy pyramid, right heel high, left toes rooting down. Find your exits. We'll reset in down dog. repeat that one. Try to make it a little bit more fluid with your own breathing. Right leg high. Step it up, back knee down. Crescent kneeling. Forward with the body, back with the arms. Elevate your back knee. Single leg mountain pose. Couple of rotations with the left hip. Knee stays directly in front of the hip. Pivot the thigh bone. Figure 4 squat, sitting back a little or a lot. Arms can be flying or at the heart. Warrior 3 only as a transition, just to get you open to your warrior 2. Inhale, reverse your warrior. Side angle. Inhale, open to straddle. Exhale, left side lunge. Inhale, rise back up. Exhale, warrior 2. Inhale, reverse triangle. Exhale, find that long, stretchy pyramid pose. You can start in the runners and then straighten your leg if you like. Now you're either going to step forward to a forward fold or you're going to take your traditional flow. For those of you that chose that standing forward bend, all you're going to need to do to transition is to step your right foot backwards and ground your knee. For those of us in down dog, stretch your left leg up and step it through. Left leg is leading, right knee on the ground. Inhale, crescent B. And then hinge and fly the arms. Lift your knee. Travel forward, stand up tall, root down through your left foot. Hip rotations, right leg. Knee stays directly in front of the hip. Step back. Open up to your warrior 2. Inhale, reverse. Side angle. Inhale, open wide, straddle. Side lunge right. Exhale. Push the floor away. Inhale. Warrior 2, exhale. Reverse the triangle. We have that runners to pyramid stretching using your feet. Stepping forward or finding that vinyasa. Forward folding, squatting, whatever you want to do. You've got choices. And then we're going to pause for a second and mix it up a little bit, but we will come back to that sequence. Bring yourself back to all fours. Walk your hands out forward a little bit so you don't have so much wrist extension. Slide your left knee back slightly. And then you're going to try to get your right ankle in front so that it's a figure 4 tabletop. Now your right knee, it might not be open as far as it would be if you were standing up. Mine's more on a diagonal. If this is already nice, you're going to stay here. Next step, you can tuck your toes under behind you, your left toes. If you want even more, this is where your blocks could come in handy. You're going to start to walk your hands back towards your legs. Pull your right toes towards your shin. Bring your spine up as high as you want to. So you don't even have to come up this high. You could still be kind of folding forward like this. Otherwise, we're just kind of loading those left toes in a figure 4, potentially lifting the left knee. This gets a little wobbly. And you're doing a little toe squat figure 4. It's better to have a little stable block. Sometimes my foam blocks just aren't enough for this. And then you're going to escape from this however you think it makes sense for you. I just like to walk out, back out where I was. And then uncross your legs. Maybe you feel like the hips need a little rotation. You could do this thing that we did earlier. The knee pivots, the hips roll in. Same thing, second side. Right knee goes back enough so that you can cross your left leg in front for the figure 4. This might be a nice place to be. Option to tuck the toes. Hands walk backwards. Any amount. Left toes could eventually tuck back under. And your right toes are firmly rooting through the floor. Maybe a little toe balance at the back of your mat. These transitions and these progressions are like bus stops. You can get off anywhere that you want to, or you can keep riding the bus and following on to the next stop. I didn't come up with that analogy, but I love it. Okay, let's come out of this. We're going back to tabletop just for a second. Untuck your toes, press the tops of your feet down, and then let's find that rounded back again. Just a regular cat, or lift your knees and shins and press onto the tops of your feet. Now here's a fun little add-on if you want to. You're going to push off the tops of your feet, flip your toes, and land in a tucked position. Set your knees back down, untuck your toes, press the tops of your feet down. Float the knees and shins, cat arch your back. You can do the little push and flip and hover if you want. And then it's down dog. Stretch your right leg up as you inhale, lift your left heel high. Exhale, step through. Back knee lowers down, inhale, kneeling crescent. Exhale, arms go back, left knee raises. Rise to stand up on your right leg, please. Left leg comes through. Figure 4 squat. Same way that we've been doing. And then step your left leg back for the warrior 2. Reverse your warrior. Parsva Konasana, the side angle. Open up and rise, wide legs to a left side lunge. Warrior 2 to the front. Reverse triangle, then triangle. Set your feet how you like them for triangle. Some of us like to scoot them a little closer. Triangle for 5. 4, right shoulder rolls back and down. 3, 2, reverse out. You can bend your knee or not. Side stretch. Pivot to the runners. This is where we're going to change things up, you guys. So I'm going to give you some choices. You can do some sort of a low lunge series with resistance stretching like we've worked on before, squeezing your right leg into your right arm. Eventually, we are going to rise back up to standing, but this is how we're going to try to do it. You're going to float your left foot beside your right foot without touching it down. You can bend your right knee if you want to. Right hand can be on the floor or on the block. Get a hold of your left big toe if possible, but don't stress over it if it's not happening. As you rise to stand, you got to push through your right foot and feel the back of that right hip firing to stand you up, holding that big toe. Otherwise, just go for the knee. That's nice. Right arm can raise up or sweep out to the side. Now we open the left hip, kind of like you would for going to tree pose. Extended big toe, opening the hip. Option 1, tree pose. Option 2, figure 4 squats to maybe playing with flying pigeon. So tree pose could turn into eventually a resting forward bend, a little toe squat like we did earlier, or you're going to work your arm balance. You got to get a little lower in that squat. Try to get your upper arms connected to the left shin and ankle. Your left foot will hook around your right triceps. Hands are in chaturanga. Press left shin and knee into the arms, and then kick your right leg if you want. So this is your playtime. Tree pose to a forward fold. Figure 4 squat, sit back, or flying pigeon, or something else I haven't thought of. Yeah, that's it, Joan. I like the use of the blocks. It's a really good progression. Nice, Lori. Ooh, yeah, really nice. You got about, I don't know, 10, 15 more seconds. Play around. What does your body need? Without thinking too much about it, let your body guide you. It's wise, it's intelligent. So it's up to you in terms of your transition. Once you do your thing, whether you're flowing or you're just going to step back, let's take a little bit of a break. So that could mean a child's pose, a puppy with the heart low and the hips high, or just simply kneeling back and bringing your trunk vertical and breathing. Easeful breathing. Slow and full. Embody your breath. Downward facing dog. Take your time transitioning. Left leg will split nice and high. On your exhale, step it through, bring your right knee to the earth. Keep your toes tucked, kneeling crescent. Inhale. And then shift the arms back, the heart comes forward, we raise that right leg, power up to stand on your left leg. First, figure 4 squat. You can always use your arms to place your lower leg where you want it. And then we're going back to the warrior 2. Inhale, reverse the warrior 2. Side angle. Open up wide to that straddle, and then it's a right side lunge. Reset the warrior 2. Reverse triangle to your triangle. First we lengthen the sides, and then the pelvis leads us into that tipping triangle pose. We got 5 breaths here. Reverse warrior or reverse triangle. Use your feet, use your glutes. You're going to pause down at that runner's lunge for a second just to kind of get your bearings. You can stay low for a little lizard stretch here, the lunge. Or that transition is going to be to try to come to standing from a floating forward fold. The right foot is not on the ground and you've got your big toe. You're curling your big toe over your peace fingers. Now this left hip has to be nice and strong to come up with the toe. You can hold your right knee, you can hold your right big toe. And then either way, you're going to open that hip out to the side. You can play with variations of tree pose here. You're going to go back to the figure 4 squat. Using your blocks, trying to sit back and down. Maybe you work that toe squat again, or you try to fly your pigeon. The right foot is a hook, so you're pulling the toes back towards your left upper arm bone. And even the knee is pushing arms, which are chaturanga. We've got playtime. Working the sweaty arm balance, some squat variations, forward fold variations. All the stuff we've kind of been working on. Nice, a couple more breaths. And then if you got one last vinyasa in you, you can have it. And then from that downward dog, gather your blocks if you typically use them in a kneeling pose. We'll take the knees kind of close together and then angle the shin bones slightly away from the midline. Your block or blocks, if there's two, could just go right underneath your bottom. And then you can kind of scoot your heels back in underneath your pelvis if that works for you. Let's mobilize the upper body a little bit. Take your fingertips behind your head. And the idea here is to keep your shoulders set and minimize the butterfly effect of your shoulder, which is, you're going to be tempted to do that as we do some side bends and twists. So try to maintain this steady shoulder shape and side bend to either side. Doesn't matter which way you go first. How's your breath? Did you notice a shift in your pelvis, or can you keep a balanced weight between the right and the left sides? It'll deliver more nutrition in that side stretch to your upper body. And then take that side bend the other way. You're thinking ribs more so than the waistline, even though the lateral core is going to be contracting. Let's see if we can get a little more rib stretch on that lengthening side. Shift back to a vertical shape. Think extra space between your vertebrae. Minimize movement of your shoulders. Twist yourself in that upper body. It will feel much smaller than normal with your arms in this position. For me, it only feels like about 30 degrees or so. And then we're going to twist it the other way. How does your breath want to combine with this movement? Another set of twists. Last time to the last side. And then release your arms by your side. Let them just dangle. And roll your shoulders up. Squeeze them in behind you. Pull them down and scoop them forward. Try to keep your head on straight. And just move the scapula. Go the other direction now. And you can just lean your weight forward like tabletop. Get rid of that block. Keep one block towards the middle of your mat where you can easily access it after you get to the floor. And how you choose to get onto your back is up to you. You can roll down if you want a little extra core stuff. And we're going to take our figure 4 into a restorative bridge. That's why you're going to need that block. Bend your knees. Right ankle crosses over left thigh. Balance your pelvis. Drive your hips up. Slide your block under them. And then you're just going to chill. If you like the stillness, stay. But if you want to rock the sacrum for a gentle massage against the block, just take a few degrees in that lower body side to side. Just enough so you can feel that weight shift to the left side of your sacrum and then a little bit towards the right side. Come back to the center if you're rocking. Commit to your left foot. Keep that figure 4 and drive your hips up with a balanced pelvis to start. Now squeeze your left bum a little harder. Let the right side of your pelvis tip to the right. So you're kind of letting that side dip towards the block. And then connect to that left outer hip again and see if you can rebalance your pelvis to level. That's actually coming from the left hip rotators. Let's do that a few more times. Let the right side dip and sag. And then think of that left glute family helping to level the pelvis. Last one. Set your hips back on your block. Uncross your legs. And you can stay here, or you can stretch your left leg to the ground. Make sure your right foot is planted and your right knee's bent. Hips are going to stay on the block for a second. Left ankle over right figure 4. And we're just enjoying this first one with ease. Option to add the small rocks. A few degrees each direction. Not enough to feel it in your lumbar, just enough to feel it around those pressure points near your sacrum. Now balance, level it out. Find your strength in your right foot and your right glutes. Lift your level pelvis off the block. Doesn't even have to be lifted very much, just an inch or so is fine. Now 3 of those little dips. Your left pelvis is dipping, but it's because your right hip is rotating slightly. Now connect to your right outer hip and try to balance that pelvis to level. Really drive down through your foot. 2 more times. Little crooked figure 4. Just a slight dip. And then rebalance. Last one. Balance it. Hold it. And then rest it down. Uncross your legs. Left foot plants on the floor with your knee bent, but now your right leg can shoot out ahead of you and lengthen to the floor, opening up the right front hip. You can do a 2 legs extended bridge or reverse process. Gentle inversion on the block. Legs go vertical. If you wanted to take this to your wall, you could use the wall to support your inversion. Maybe one last dessert for the ankles to rotate a few times. And then you have a moment or two to do anything that you feel like you might like or benefit from before we set up a rest. Spine twist, we didn't do a lot of that, so that could be a nice way to finish things off. If you are doing a twist, take about 3 more breaths on this first side and then repeat. Decide if you want to spend this final segment of class in a reclining Shavasana-like shape, whether that's to bend your knees or not, that's up to you. You could even do the butterfly legs. Or you might just like to sit and meditate. Kneeling pose is also fine. What is your body inclined to do right now? Guide yourself into that until it feels just right. Fine-tune your senses to the breathing, the subtle flow, energy release, and incoming energy. Simple exchange. Free the shoulders. Decompress around your jaw. Take rest. come back to sensations of breathing and make a soft effort to increase the volume of your inhales, and then try to hold the exhales for a little bit longer so that they come out super slow, metering your breath. Exploring where you feel body expansion with your inhales. And then make your exhale last. Take a little pause at the bottom and start it all over again. And if you're in your reclining position, you might like to take a good morning stretch, reaching arms and legs away from your core in opposite directions. Or you might want a little tuck, like a cannonball, to roll around a little bit on your back. For those of us in a seat, you could play around with some shoulder stuff, some neck movement, a little bit more spine mobilization as you find a really steady base to work above. And if you'd like to join me in your seat, your hands can remain in your lap, or you can take your hands together at your heart. Maybe just as a way to connect to the idea or the feeling or the sense of gratitude for the practice itself as a whole, our community, this technology that, while it can be frustrating, is quite amazing and miraculous in the way that we can come together in this way. Thanks so much for showing up for yourself today. As always, it's my honor to guide you. Take care of yourselves this weekend. Namaste.